they know it.
So you first start with CCTV. This is the pre.
But I didn't stay long there. I
Yeah.
didn't stay long because I was pirated right away by TVB in Hong Kong.
So you moved down to Hong Kong.
TVB Pearl, yeah.
Right, right.
Okay, and then after TVB Pearl, I was pirated again by Channel News Asia in Singapore.
So you first went Beijing, then Hong Kong, then Singapore, CNA, and then after CNA, you went back again to China.
No, 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 no. I came back to the Philippines first again.
Okay. So when is this? Late 2000s? Arroyo time?
It's about, yeah, I guess it is late 2000s.
So your professor was the president by this time,
Then I,
right?
yeah, this
Yeah,
is 2008. Then I got hit by Ondoy and I almost lost all my stuff there.
Oh shoot! Yeah.
Then I became a professor, a part-time professor at several universities.
So you did your run.
I was teaching broadcast journalism,
Right.
public relations, crisis PR, and I was one of the first to start a media literacy course in the Philippines.
Interesting.
Media and news literacy.
Right.
Yeah. It was not in vogue yet, but I started it already.
It's for the students.
Lyceum, FEU. Yeah.
And how did you end up back in China again?
Because this channel called Blue Ocean Network, it was a liberal, private, so-called privately owned TV channel network.
Shanghai-ish?
No, it was based in Beijing, but I heard it was based on the money of Jiang Zemin.
So Shanghai.
So
click,
these were
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
more liberals, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
The more
liberals.
Deng Xiaoping type.
That's right. They were more liberal, right? So, and then my friends, foreign friends, whom I knew for a while, were all working there, and they said, "David, why don't you, come over and let's, be back together again and let's have fun. It's a good channel." So I joined. I mean, I was accepted right away again. So I did a show, but after a while, you could feel that there was a clampdown already.
So Xi Jinping time na to.
Yeah, it was already. You can feel it already. So,
Like how? Can you give us some idea?
well,
Editorial lines are
we
changed.
couldn't just say right away. Oh, David, can you see your script? Right away. Very tight again. At that time, there was this Chinese staff who was working with us, and she ended up moving to Global Times from BON. So a year after, she said, or less than a year actually, she asked me, "David, we have an opening here at Global Times for a news editor, and I recommended you. You're very good. It's like we work together at BON. I said, I like, and I told him about you. So I applied to Global Times, and said, okay, sure, you're in.
Just to remind our audience, what is the Global Times and what
Yes.
does the building look like? Just give us a feel of the
Global
place.
Times is the tabloid nationalist newspaper of the People's Daily.
So Fox is on steroids. Pravda, like something like
The joke
Well-
is it's basically Fox on steroids.
Yes.
okay?
or Pravda, no.
It's practically the news outlet of the Communist Party of China.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And all of them, by
Yeah.
the way, are all propaganda. They call it
Yeah.
newspapers, even
Yeah.
CGTN, they call it the news TV. No, no, no. It's all propaganda.
Right.
All right?
You mean
So
state interest being reflected as news?
it's all
essentially.
propaganda
Yeah, yeah.
because as a news editor, I'll tell you the truth. If I would edit the first draft, when the second draft comes to me, the facts are all different. Much of it is.
There's a
How
new
did this
fact.
happen?
It's like,
How
the
did this
facts
happen?
change.
You know?
Medyo iba yung tawag natin dyan. Hindi na
It's
propaganda.
magic. It is magical.
Magic, yeah. Medyo literary pala, magical realism.
Right. And I would hope that would happen every day.
OMG.
Every day,
OMG.
What were the big issues na
Exactly.
nakaharap nyo nung...
And you
Well,
last
of course, the U.S. Of course, U.S. They're attacking the U.S., attacking the NATO. The usual thing. If America does something that China doesn't like, they'll hit America again.
What were the big things
And
during this
the
time?
thing about
Yeah.
China is they will cherry pick certain events in history where America fumbled, and they would harp on it.
Afghanistan,
Or
Iraq.
Japan, always
Oh,
Nanjing massacre. Always,
yeah.
it's always Nanjing massacre. Look at the, it's always Nanjing massacre, and it's really coming out of my ears already. Why do you guys keep on harping on that? Life has moved on since the Nanjing massacre.
But during that time, they were also critical of Russia.
Well, you see, China and Russia have this.
Love-hate relationship.
That's right.
Dynamic. Yeah.
Because
Parang kami ni Ronald. Medyo dynamics. Medyo patama, tapos kaibigan, tapos
yeah,
patama.
because you know how it is. You know, they have a history of a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
That's China and Russia. Okay, but China, as I've said, many times, and what I've learned by staying there and by dealing with the communist cadres on a daily basis, is that China primarily is that. I mean, at least the Communist Party is just two things. What they value the most. One is material wealth. Second is, or equally, is saving face. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah.
That's it. That's China.
Material wealth for the
For the country, for them,
For them.
because
Economic growth, essentially.
for
yeah.
them, that's the pact, the unwritten rule agreement between the people and the Communist Party. You allow us to control your lives, but in return, we will make you prosperous.
That's the social contract.
That's it.
Yeah.
you give up some of your
Your rights and
your
everything.
freedoms,
Yeah.
your
Right.
rights.
But hey, we're gonna make you rich.
We're okay with that, right? Because here we vote for them and then they get everything away from us, right?
Right.
Alas in China, nahihiya yung government. Di naman kami binoto, ayusin namin, di ba? I mean, that's the critic, right? You rather have a functional
Pero
autocracy.
walang pagtagulan.
Ayun
Para
lang.
survive.
The problem
Unless
is
it's
in
told,
China,
yeah.
they will cynicize everything.
Yeah.
Like with the Catholic Church, they will actually change portions of the Bible
Oh, I'm
to suit them the Chinese way.
Yeah.
You
Like
know,
socialism with Chinese characters.
that's our characteristics.
Which is a
Everything with them
Jiang Zemin.
Yeah.
with them, it's always
Yeah.
with Chinese characteristics. I said, what is that? What's this Chinese characteristics nonsense? I said, it's basically control. Again, it's mind control. Yeah.
But face is also very important. When I was doing backdoor after
Right.
Scarborough in 2012,
Right.
I was asking them, what happened? No, we've been doing this for decades. We've been boarding each other's ships.
Right.
No? But what happened now? You can no longer do that now, according to Wang
Right.
Yi, whom I met
Right.
in 2012.
Wang Yi, yeah.
He said, I said, why? We're now a superpower. You
Yeah.
cannot do that to a superpower.
It's all
Right.
face.
Yeah.
It's all face for them.
no?
It's all face
Yeah,
for them.
yeah.
I tell you.
But also hubris, right? Like, we are the Middle Kingdom, we're
Well-
rising
Well,
superpower.
Greece is a little different.
But
from,
that's why I said
yeah.
China actually is, because of their educational system of rote memory,
Right.
they create templates of information. That if they
Right.
choose this template, you have to all follow this
Follow
template.
that, yeah.
So what they do, they regurgitate all their templates of information over time, but only adjust it for the times. Just like in the 14th century, the tributary system,
Yes.
they're doing it now.
Yes.
They were powerful then, they were
Right.
powerful now. All right, let's redo it, regurgitate it for the modern times.
In a more softer way, Belt and Road.
Yeah.
But it's basically
The same thing.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
with the South China Sea, they're doing the same thing, tributary. They want to get tribute from the Philippines. All right? Because they consider us weaker.
But that's what I wanted to ask. During your time there, how did they?
They
view
were
the
always
Philippines?
unpraised of Duterte. They were high praise for Duterte because he's so friendly to China. I said, how friendly? How much money is he making off you guys? You thought you could fool me. But I was playing dumb. You see, when
What's
I
the
was there, I was
difference,
playing dumb.
During Pinoy's time and Duterte's time.
They hated Noy Noy.
Yeah.
You criticize Pinoy. You came to us, the Asian Center, gave
I
this
know.
lecture about
I know,
Noy
because-
Noy's foreign
yeah, it's
policy,
called- it's
bashing
called-
this guy.
it's called,
How dare you?
Have you ever heard of the Trojan horse?
Yeah.
That's how I would get information.
Is it a Chinese version of Trojan horse story or something?
No, I was the classic version. I passed through the front door, okay?
Ito backdoor eh. Mahilig sa backdoor. At least ito front door eh.
Front door ko.
We keep it traditional.
That's
eh.
right.
So how would you write about how would they write about Pinoy kunyari pag merong mga
It was negative.
Yeah.
It was negative.
It's amboy.
They call it American boy and everything. He was
But,
following
uh,
Americans, the usual
Actually,
lines.
during the first year of Pinoy, he was the only Philippine president whose first state visit was China,
Right.
not the U.S.
That's right.
And then during the Nobel Peace Prize award,
Liu Xiaobo, yeah.
Yeah,
He boycotted it.
we boycotted
That's
it
right.
in deference to China.
That's right.
And then when we arrested some Taiwanese triads, we sent them
To China. Yeah, not to Taiwan,
Taiwan
yeah.
was very angry.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
during the first year,
It was okay.
It was okay. No, he went to his hometown in China.
Xiamen.
Yeah.
Xiamen, his mother,
no,
yeah.
She etc., etc. And at the
The
time,
Coancos, yeah.
for 6 months, he wasn't talking to the American ambassador.
That's right.
During the first
Grabe,
year.
no?
So, but when Scarborough happened,
Then he changed his tune.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nagkaalaman na.
And since I'm the only leftist in the cabinet, I was sent to China to talk with my fellow leftists.
You can do dialectics. Let's do dialectics there, yeah.
And that's where I learned that
No, actually,
face
yeah.
is very dominant.
Right. In my
About-
case, for example, I don't consider myself a rightist or a leftist.
Yeah.
Okay. I consider myself
You're
based on.
Jesuit.
Well, I'm my Jesuit. You know,
Neither left nor
it's
right.
really critical thinking. You know, it's critical
Yeah.
thinking. That's how I
Absolutely.
approach. I was a debater, so I understand. You know, okay, let's look at the facts. Let's look at the
Right.
information, and let's analyze it based on that. Okay.
How important was your role? You were editor of Front Page and Op-Ed,
And
right?
Op-Ed page,
oh,
right.
Essentially the two most important
That's
parts.
why I told you how much I know about how they think,
Oh
because
my God, yeah.
they put me in the most critical pages where they would save face, right? These are the front pages. These were the frontal pages which would send out their message, right? So I understood how they were thinking.
You should have stayed. I want to submit op-eds there. I
No.
mean, I've written for China Daily and CGTN.
I've
but-
seen enough. I've seen more than enough. Okay?
How many years were you in
10 years.
10 years in Global Times?
Right.
Oh
and,
my.
and people ask me, how did I
10
survive?
years.
Remember, okay,
Oh my God.
all the other foreign editors all spoke Chinese. I don't speak Chinese. So they wonder, how could I survive and thrive?
But
in
they
this-
knew you have a Chinese background. Did you eventually tell them?
They knew I told them my dad is from Shanghai.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Oh, so.
And right away, they were like taken aback when I said my dad is from is a Shanghainese. It's like, shit, I mean, this guy is... Wait a minute, you
That
know?
kind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
That
you know.
kind. But
They're
you
taken
understand.
aback when you say Shanghainese. It's like, boom.
Yeah.
You know?
But you understand Mandarin.
No, I don't.
Oh, really?
No, I
And
don't.
you didn't bother. You didn't bother all those
I didn't
years?
bother because it's an
your
English
dad
language
yeah.
paper. They all spoke English. Why
Yeah.
didn't you learn Chinese? you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you got away with it.
But I got that's right. So you begin to wonder, how did I
Interesting.
do it?
Interesting. Yeah. You're like the triple agent. Like, it's like, how did you, without the Mandarin language and facility, you were
Exactly.
able to make it that high?
Exactly.
Oh, maybe because they said, oh, he doesn't understand our conversation.
That's not true.
Because some of our friends in China, who were based there, they could
Yeah,
understand.
that's what
No, what I
Ambassador
would
Chito Santa Romana used to tell me.
Chito was a good friend of mine.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
I would do was I could understand a smattering of words.
Right. Put them together.
And
yeah.
when they would, it's rude, obviously, to speak a different language in front of somebody who doesn't understand language. But I would pick up on one or two words, and I knew right away what they were getting at. You see,
Yeah. Code terms.
They
then,
didn't
yeah.
know that I knew a few words, code words.
Yeah.
So that's how we would get around. You
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
and I could tell body language,
yeah.
the way they would move.
Right.
Okay.
Yung algorithm nila. No,
That's
yeah.
right. So I would analyze everything they would do, their body language, like for example, when I talked about my Catholic faith, if you look at them, it's like they had an epileptic attack. Really. I mean, because they're atheists, and it's almost like they get hit by their conscience when you talk about your Catholic faith.
Interesting.
So suddenly they have what I call an epileptic attack. They will look very nervous, very fidgety, and then they would change the topic right away.
Oh.
You talk about Catholics, it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Their
I think they're
conscience
the
is
same
hit.
also when you raise religions like Islam or Judaism.
But
Like, they
more
also
with
become-
Catholics. You know why?
Really?
Because
the Pope and the-
Christianity,
yeah.
because the Christian faith is the largest organized faith.
in China.
And there are more Catholics than Chinese. So they feel threatened all the time by Catholics.
Yes.
Because we're organized.
Because Confucianism and communism
organized.
are not diametrically opposed.
Right.
Confucianism doesn't focus on the
No.
Afterlife.
afterlife.
The metaphysics,
They
yeah.
focus on
Here-
ancestors.
Right,
family.
absolute
right,
being.
Yeah.
right, yeah.
So-
Immanent
so it's
spirituality.
not-
Weber,
it's
yeah.
That's
not that
why-
antagonistic to
that's why I use
Marxism.
the derogatory-
Unlike Catholicism.
Yes.
I use the derogatory term when I refer sometimes to them. I call them, in the vernacular, I call them taong lupa. Why? Because they're always all about the here and now.
Yeah, the immanent.
They're so materialistic. It's like this is the alpha and omega of the Chinese. This world. That's it.
It's very different, right? It's a very different world.
And a lot of Chinese are merchants. even during the
They're
height
mercantilists. That's right,
yeah,
they're mercantilists.
even during the height of the Cultural Revolution,
Right.
there were hundreds
It's all
of
about
thousands
making
of
money.
capitalists.
My understanding
All
is
about making
Sangli. Sangli comes from the
Yeah.
Chinese transliteration of the Chinese term for merchant. So when they said in Chinese, they said our job is merchant. The stupid Spanish or not, they thought that's name for China. They didn't know. They were
Yeah.
just saying we're merchants.
That's why
Yeah.
when the Great Leap Forward failed and the shift on
Yeah.
open
Right,
economy
right.
happened,
It's
it was not
natural.
that hard.
Yeah.
It
Because
wasn't.
there were underneath.
Intrinsically,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
used to it.
They're
That's right.
entrepreneurial people. Yeah. Ikaw, businessman ka, alam mo, di ba?
Ito gusto ko lang din itanong eh. So you were talking sa Global Times, it's all about propaganda and
It's all propaganda.
pero
yeah.
yung how are they using it to influence what's happening here in the Philippines?
Because you must understand, okay, Global Times had the Chinese version and the English version.
Ah, right.
What they would do many times is they would translate into English the Chinese version, which was even more radical, more nationalistic. They would translate it to English.
Wait, so the crazy ones we see are already the subdued version?
That's
Is it-
right.
Like,
Chinese
that's
version-
like there's crazy one, then
The Chinese version is to convince their local population, you know, how great they are and things like that. We're great, we're
Yeah.
bold,
Right.
da, 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 da.
So it's like
That's-
steroids on fentanyl.
because in the Chinese version is called Huangchu.
Right.
Huangchu Shibao. You know, that's
Wang
the
Shibao, yeah.
that's the name of the newspaper, Chinese version. Okay, us it becomes Global Times. Okay,
Right.
yeah. So that's how it is.
And how did you have a non-disclosure agreement before you went out? I mean, you know too much.
I don't care.
Like, did you sign an NDA? How did you transition back to the Philippines? I mean, you were 10 years in the inner sanctum of Chinese
Well, I
propaganda.
just told them that I was being called to serve now in the Philippines, and good night, goodbye.
It's like you.
But they wanted me to stay. And they offered me a higher salary
Yeah.
again. No dice. Bye bye.
Right. Maybe that salary went to some other people
Oh,
here.
probably that's good.
I think
mean,
you have a favorite columnist.
fine.
Like, you want to talk
fine.
about it?
Another student of Gloria.
Yeah, like suddenly, like, oh, we'll have someone else being paid. So when you came back to the Philippines, were you surprised by the change in approach of the Marcos administration, or you warned already the Chinese?
I warned
this guy
them
is
already.
not-
I warned before I
Yeah.
left. I warned
What
them.
year did you come back?
22.
So sakto,
So
BBM.
after BBM 1 na o
Yes,
before?
after BBM 1. Yeah.
New admin na, yeah.
Yeah. I warned them already. I told them, they asked me, how is Bongbong Marcos? I said, he's not going to be a Duterte.
Yeah.
Just to give you a heads up, okay? So be prepared, I said, you know. You're not going to have this honeymoon period anymore. I said, you know, I told them straightforward.
Because they thought that Sara and Duterte's will control. Because
Right.
BBM is supposed to be a stupid guy,
Right,
just
right.
the front
Did they
guy.
think
Yeah.
that BBM would continue yung the
They
same
had
way?
hoped. Because of the
hope.
father, because of Ferdinand Sr.
And
Who
every
normalized bilateral
That's right.
relations.
Year, and every year, Bongbong is in China.
Yeah. And
Right.
Amy Marcos,
Every year, no?
Amy
The family
Marcos.
is there,
Right.
Great
Every year.
relations, wonderful relations.
But I told them already
yeah.
straight up, don't expect the same treatment as Duterte. I said,
Pero
I
yung
told
ganyang
them.
klaseng pag-pivot, sobrang layo eh. Sobrang on the other side.
But I already knew what was going to happen. You know, I mean, I mean, obviously I've been a journalist for decades. I know more or less how things are run. You know,
So, Global Times, but obviously there are also accusations that aside from this formal official Chinese propaganda and nonsense coming out on the West Philippines and gaslighting us and all of that, that China is engaged in disinformation activities in the Philippines. So back in 2020,
they are
Meta,
always they are.
TAD, yeah.
You must understand that the media outlets in China, Xinhua, CGTN,
Right.
ad infinitum, are now covert instruments of propaganda here and around the world. What do they do? For example, you see a lot of these paid articles in Philippine newspapers. That the
Right.
ambassador is speaking, and then they put the, they pay
Yeah.
for that space. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they talk about Belt and Road, they pay again for a space. It's an advertorial, is what technically it's known as. They make it look like news, but actually it's propaganda. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And they're doing that a lot.
So advertisement as editorial, essential propaganda.
That's right.
Yeah.
They make it look like a news article, but actually it's propaganda. And they're buying a lot of space in Philippine newspapers. and they're also buying airtime and broadcast outfits.
And buying
A lot
also
of these people.
buying people.
No, because all the Chinese, I told you already, is
Yeah.
all about, they think everyone can be
Be
bought.
bought.
Everyone has a
Yeah.
price. Chinese idea is money is king. That's it. All right? As I said earlier, only it's about material wealth and saving face. That's it.
That's
And-
how they
and-
were
and
able,
They're very predictable.
And
that's
they
how
have
they were able to make Africa the
Right.
second Chinese continent.
yeah.
But
As
now
Howard
they're,
French,
now,
my
now they're
friend,
having
put it.
problems
Of
because
course.
the BRI, because the Belt and Road is turning out to be a flop.
Yes, no more money.
See, that's the problem with China. That's the problem with them.
no
I'll
more
tell
money,
you.
no more king.
The problem with them is they always do things knee jerk. They have this knee jerk attitude. You know, they have this foot in mouth. I call it the foot in mouth disease syndrome. They will say something, they will do something out of desperation, not realizing they will trip all over it.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect example is the one child policy. They overdid it. Now they're having serious problems. Now they have a whole generation of spoiled brats. How are they going to deal with that?
No, may mga issues
Right?
na
Yeah.
Yes, Mark.
may mga issues na lumalabas dito sa Philippines na China is even going as far as destabilization and
Deep fakes.
oh,
Here is the golden rule. When China becomes more aggressive internationally, you know they have serious domestic problems. Why? That's to save face. That's to divert attention
Of their own population.
of their own everything they do is for the domestic consumption. Understand that. It's not for international consumption. It's for domestic because they want to legitimize their rule over China.
So we rather have a stable China then, because the more unstable China is, the more they have to do rallying around the flag
Yes,
and do something
but
crazy
you must
abroad.
understand that stability doesn't mean that we give things up. You see, there are
Yes.
key words and phrases
Good
China
point.
always uses.
Right.
You know,
Win-win.
to make them sound, palatable.
Yeah.
Win-win.
Right.
Cooperation.
Right.
There's a misunderstanding. I know all these terms.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what they mean. Trust me. It's
Whi-
coming out
which
of my
means
ears
what?
already.
Like,
All right.
what's mine is mine, what's yours we share.
Cooperation. Win-win means they win with a capital W and we win with a small W. That's right.
yeah.
They probably get 80-20, 75-25.
If you're lucky. If
You're
you're
lucky.
lucky. If you're lucky,
And
right?
yet the 25 goes to a select few.
Exactly. I want to say that 25,
Goes
50
to the
of that
people
goes to
they've
our
been dealing
friends.
with, who trust,
Yeah.
whom they trust already.
Yeah.
The Chinese are like this. They don't really have friends. What they have are transactional buddies.
Right.
Once you're not
Mercenaries.
useful to them transactionally, then they
Yeah.
throw you away. Right? They dump you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But David is very correct when he said that the biggest vulnerability of the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese government, is the consent of their own population.
That's right.
Especially the 4 to 500 million middle class.
That's right.
Yeah.
If they lose that, then it will make
And the
They're
hundreds
scared
of
of a
millions of
revolt.
It will
and
make
hundreds of
Chinamen look
millions
like
of
a camping.
underclass.
Right.
it will
Yeah,
make
yeah.
Chinamen look like a camping.
Yeah, yeah. And the
If
hundreds
this-
of millions
this-
of underclass in those cities who don't have the
Right.
residency rights and
But
all
even,
of that. Yeah.
even those, they are not afraid of that. They are
Yeah.
afraid of the stable
Middle class.
Middle class.
That's
Yeah.
right.
The
Why
proletariat,
the-
it has a lot of strikes, but it's for
Right.
them, it's still
Why do
It's
you
not
controlled.
think they've
organized.
stopped reporting figures on the
Youth
urban
unemployment.
youth unemployment?
Yeah.
They've stopped. After 21% unemployment, they stopped. They said, no more. We're not. They're scared, okay?
Yeah.
They're frightened.
So, David, we're going towards the latter part, and I want to bring in also Mark. What is your advice to the Philippines and policymakers? How should we deal with China? Because we keep on hearing diplomacy, diplomacy. Yeah, of course, water is wet, but diplomacy on what terms?
No, no, no.
Right, yeah.
Like David, after the Scarborough incident, I organized a seminar for the cabinet.
Right.
Because the cabinet doesn't, at the time, I think even now, doesn't know anything about China.
They don't,
They
they
don't
don't.
understand the Communist Party of
And,
China.
and
They
the
don't
biggest
un-
mistake, for example, is thinking that if you go diplomatically, you would de-escalate the situation. No. When you deal with China, you have to make sure that you want them to lose face. Because when they lose face, they back off. All right? And then they will be forced to make a concession to you. Perfect example is what Widodo did to China years ago. He got pissed off when all these illegal Chinese fishing vessels were plying Indonesian waters.
She blew them up.
Yeah, he rounded all of them and on live Indonesian TV blew them all up.
Yeah.
China lost a lot of face. What did they do? They had to make a concession to save face. And what was that? They built Indonesia's first high-speed
train.
railway from Bandung to Jakarta.
Sana all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fast train.
No, you hold your ground, they'll give you
force
grudging
China
respect.
to make a concession. That's what you
Yeah.
negotiate from a position of strength.
Right.
So you think
Then you de-escalate. Look, has China bothered Indonesia? No. Indonesia again got mad at China for dumping cheap goods. All right, recently, what
Yeah.
did Indonesia do?
Impose
200%
tariffs.
tariff. Good
Yeah.
night. You're our number one trading partner, but guess what? What you're doing is wrong. 200%
Yeah.
tariff. Good night.
And then Alice Go goes there, and then they catch Alice Go.
That's right.
Our Chinese friends here were doing
And
some
we
stuff.
Should, We should learn from this Alice Guo thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Now we can use Alice Guo as a bargaining chip with China. Because what we want to do, I'll tell you what we want to do. We want to make her sing. To expose
You think
China.
she's spy? She could be a spy, double
she's a
agent.
spy? Is
I
that-
As a double agent? I'm just kidding. I mean,
I
like,
strongly suspect she is. Because
Oh,
the way she was
interesting.
the way she was talking, the way she was doing things
interesting.
is